Okay.
This is your first con?
Yes, and I tried to come before. I tried to get like a Samus outfit to come, but it ended up not being wearable, so I couldn't make it.
Cool. We'll go ahead and start, and Mike can join.
Mike, come on.
And although everybody does know who everybody is here, you mind doing introductions really quick?
Yeah. Let me start.
Axel Alonso. I'm the Chief Creative Officer for AWA Studios, who's editing this book.
And I'm Ronda Rousey, the writer of Expecting the Unexpected. That's it. That's all I do.
I'm Mike Deodato. I'm old. I'm the artist.
Amazing, thank you.
Rhonda, you mentioned how personal this is to you. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? I mean, obviously, you said you wrote it when you were trying to get pregnant. It's a story you had to get out. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it was a story that I didn't really know was in me until I started writing it. I literally wrote the scene when she found out she's pregnant, and then 11 hours of writing straight later, I had basic outline, It just really changed a whole lot since then, but the story at its core is very much the same, and I think it's just the kind of moral dilemma, or like the, how do I say it? I'm having a lot of baby brain today, but you kind of view things and reassess everything in a different way when you're trying to have a baby and you're bringing a kid into the world, and you're wondering, like, there's so much like crazy stuff happening right now, and will I be able to help this child navigate it? Can I help this kid have a life worth living? Am I worthy of the task? Can I live up to it? And so I figured that the best way to explore that dilemma is to put a mom in the most dangerous situation possible, and see if she can decide to overcome it. And I think a lot of times I haven't really seen it explored from the moment from when a woman finds out she's pregnant to when she decides whether or not she's up to the task of being a mother. And a lot of people, I feel like, skip or gloss over that. But there's that moment you found you're pregnant and you're like, oh my God, can I do this? Can I be worthy of this role and this child? And you're bringing like a completely pure, innocent person into the world, and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, how can I not mess this up? And so that's really what I wanted to explore, was all of those insecurities that I was feeling, bringing the kid into a crazy world, and wondering if I was up to the task.
Rhonda, can you talk about your support team with this? You spoke a lot about being nervous and being unsure and imposter syndrome, but can you talk about the folks that supported you to this point, Travis included, and all the other friends that you have out there soon, folks like Shayna and such, but like those folks that you want to give their flowers to in terms of getting you to this point today?
Trav has been... I think he's been like so tolerant of me, because we put down the baby at night, and he can tell I just always want to go work on this, and he's like, I got it, go do your nerd stuff. I'm like, thanks, babe. And he knows it's really important to me, and I really love it. And before it was actually a profession, before I was a working screenwriter, before Axel signed on and Mike, and we were actually making this into a project. He was really supportive of me doing it, because he knew that, he just saw how much joy that it brought me. And even if it was if he thought of it as like some hobby that I was obsessed with for some reason that he didn't understand, he was still supportive of it. Like, okay, if you want to collect Beanie Babies and organize your Beanie Babies, go do it. And he's also like the best subject to draw from to create. It is very much him in our relationship, and he is Hapa. And it is it's so funny because people, they don't see your relationship from the outside, and they don't see how sweet and funny and adorable he is. But he's also like a badass, but he's also so witty and silly. And so I love being able to show those kind of things of these two people that to the outside they're they seem like these, you know, killers, and they're tough and they have nothing other than that. But when they're around each other, they melt. And I love that because he's like a big teddy bear on the inside, and like, you know, he brings that out of me too.
Thank you.
So, Ronda, physicality and athleticism obviously is such a huge, important part of your career to this point. What has it been like now taking that aspect of your career, translating it, choreographing it into print media? And for you, Mike, what is it like to try and take what she does and put it on a page?
Well, I mean, I've had a passion for choreography ever since I worked under J.J. Perry in Expendables, and it's kind of like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's frustrating, but when you are a fighter and you do understand how fights work, and you see something on the screen that, you know, you can't suspend your disbelief for it. And so it just made me want to do so much more when I see it done right and it's done well, and you're like lost in that moment and what is happening, and you believe it. Like there's no, like, it's just such an incredible feeling, and not just to watch it, but to be part of it. And to like in pro wrestling, I got to be part of like performing it and get people to be like, oh my God, is she really hurt? Is she okay? Did Alexis Bliss really break her ribs? You know?
95 yeah.
Yeah. And being able to like kind of like take that to another level with you know, writing the story and creating the situation, and then, you know, writing the choreography. Like, well, I love to write choreography, and it's just, and I love to do it in the context of a story. My first fight that I choreographed was for Fast and the Furious, and they were so busy doing everyone else's fights and stuff that they were like, yeah, take two of the stunt assistants and figure your fight out. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I get to figure out my own fight. And so they took me onto the set, and, you know, I had two guys, and one of them had like a cell phone to film, and like, okay, where do we start? And like, you're up here and she's down there. And I got to create a fight between me and Michelle Rodriguez with, okay, I'm a trained fighter, but she's like really scrappy and resourceful. So I would do like the pretty martial arts stuff, and she would like use a knife or a vase or hit my head into the thing. So I got to like start with logic and work us around the room and make it part of the story. And I really believe that the fights themselves are part of the storytelling. And a lot of times when I see you know, choreography either in print or in film, it's kind of like, okay, we're telling the story. All right, let's take a break for the fight. Okay, back to the story again. Whereas in pro wrestling, I really got to dive into telling the story through the fight. And the fight isn't like an intermission away from the story where we show you some cool stuff. It's another way to get to know these people and their situation. And so that's kind of why I got into any of my projects. I really delve into it because I love the style of fighting, and I want to tell a story from whatever that is. And so, yeah, I think that, and he saw when he read the screenplay, I literally choreograph it like beat by beat, the action. Usually when you're reading a script and it's like, and they fight, and then they go, you know what I mean? And it's not like, they swing this, and that happens this, and they throw over this over here, and da-da-da-da, and like she puts the knee, like her foot on the leg, and throws that over the head, and then that is, you know, so I like literally spell out all the choreography because that is writing to me, you know, and I feel like they've been kept separate where they really should be meshed together, and
well, case in point, there's an amazing scene involving a massive fight that takes place with the pregnancy test floating in the air that falls on the ground.
Yeah, she's like fighting over the pregnancy test, and she's like she's trying to figure out what it actually is. If you ever try to take a pregnancy test, you're like, what does it mean? And you're like trying to figure it out, and then someone's trying to fight you like at the same time. But the real problem is she's trying to get to this damn pregnancy test.
I figured it out. I've done it 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, that's the fun part. I don't like it being separate. I think they should be together, and the way that like Axel, the way that Mike really draws it, it doesn't seem like it's something separate, that we're taking a break for the fight, that the story is the fight and the fight is the story.
For me, she made my life much easier because I have been drawing fights since 4 years, and sometimes they write just from page 2 to 5 there's a fight, and then I have to create the whole thing. So this time I have everything in video. So that's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And everything makes sense, you know. It's not like every character has their own unique fighting style, and I like to think as every fight is like a conversation, and you're debating and trying to win the conversation. Except for, you know,
I love that. Every fight is a conversation.
Yeah, but like everybody speaks differently. They have a different cadence. They have a different stance, you know, which was one thing I loved about the original UFC when it was all the different, you know, martial arts against each other. Because everybody before UFC came along, they'd be like, well, actually, karate is better than judo, or actually, judo is better than boxing is best. Well, actually, wrestling, and so people would have like these debates about it, and then you actually got to see it together, and that's what I love seeing in like fight sequences. Is that debate happening, is who has the better style. So I love that in this story, everyone has a very unique fighting style, and they're all kind of like arguing for what is the best.
Styles make fights.
Styles make fights, exactly.
So, Ronda makes it easy for you to do the drawing. I didn't know if she was representing her vision to you very clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great. But besides the fighting, what impressed me most was the dialogues. The dialogues are fight themselves, because it's great exchange of snark comments, and it's like you're watching a Tarantino movie. It really got me into this. It's fantastic. So it was I was very inspired, not only by the fighting, but the dialogues. They are the most impressive thing, I think.
Yeah, Ronda, one of the things
you were there.
one of the things so interesting to me, you know, the pinnacle in your sport physically, you know, whether it be, you know, fighting MMA, WWE, and those challenges, and they were physical challenges, and you strived to do your best, and you broke through those barriers. Now your challenge is, you know, creative. It's more mental. So you can't punch your way out of it. You know, you can't do one more rep to get better. So other than the internship that you mentioned, what are some of the ways that you've approached it? Like, hey, you know, writer's block, or I can't figure out how to get from this scene to that scene, transitions, that sort of thing. How have you approached those challenges? Because it's not the way you've approached things before. You can't punch your way out of it.
Yeah, I mean the internship is a big thing, and Adam Novak, who's the person I was doing my internship under, and I think it's like a Stephen King quote that he was always saying, and he says, when you aren't inspired to read, when you are inspired to write. And so if I get stuck on something, I'm going to start reading a whole bunch of other scripts and breaking them down and figuring out what works, what doesn't, why they do things the way that they do. And so if I'm stuck, I study, if that makes sense. And if I feel inspired, I just go. And but yeah, and a lot of times I just like, you know, you have a baby, you're doing stuff, you have like these little moments in the day where you can like kind of let your mind drift or whatever. You're holding a sleeping kid, you know, and you can't move or do anything. You're like, well, what if this happened or that? So I allow myself like a lot of time to like think about it. And I don't just sit there in front of like a blank page, be like trying to bleed onto the keyboard or anything like that. So a lot of times my mind's just going back to it all day long, and then I'll get an idea and I'll write a note. And then I'll get back, you know, be thinking about it, and I'll write a note. So by the time I sit down and actually have time to work on it, I have all of these notes and stuff to implement. And then once I start going, I can add more. And but one of the people I wanted to actually give credit to for this whole writing journey is Jason Nawara, who is my partner in my production company. And he was like the first person where I was like, I wrote this and I don't know what to do. And he was like, here, read Save the Cat. Read Sid Field's screenplay. Read, like, he was giving me all of the basics and stuff like that. And he was the person that was actually reading my very early stuff and getting me feedback and stuff like that. And he writes as well. So we were like a tiny little writers group, and he was the one who reached out to Axel for me, because I was like, dude, do you think we could, like, what about a graphic novel? And he's like, you know what? So he was the one, because I was too shy to actually reach out. So Jason was the one that made that connection. And so that's kind of like, we have like our little writers group, a very small one, that we would read each other's stuff. And actually read one of his the other day that is actually really, really funny. But yeah, it's hopefully we'll all come up together.
Jason got me the script. I read it and I was just blown away.
And that was an earlier one. It's got
early
better.
draft, yeah. It's got better as soon as I
Yeah.
Thank you. One thing about you make your premieres always on the grandest stage here. Now having this here at San Diego Comic Con, the mecca of Comic Cons. I want to know for you all, what was the number of supporters so far?
It was 93 when we checked a little while ago. 93
just so you know, right now, what is the message to the fans already believing into you all, the folks that came to the panels, and for the folks that may not be here that you want to see artistic side of you that they've never seen?
I just want to say thank you, and really how much I really appreciate people that are believing in this since the very beginning. And it's going to be either valuable as a failure or valuable as a success.
You learn something either way.
Yeah, it's either going to be the Barbie with the Spider-Man voice box, or it's going to be like, oh my God, why did I know about the Hollow Knight Kickstarter? I always wish man, why did I know? And why do Hollow Knight not get more? I wish they had got that next goal or something like that. And so. It'll be one or the other, but at least the Kickstarter itself, the art that is available, and the opportunities to be drawn by Mike. I mean, that's something that I would follow myself for. But the things that we're offering are not going to be available to buy after it's published. And I'm just. It's because of people that have that belief and take that plunge early on that we are even able to do this project. And so I can't say thank you enough. And I'm doing everything that I can to exceed expectations and make sure that they can brag about I got the Kickstarter expecting the unexpected that no one ever got, no one else could ever buy after this. And
it's a chance to be immortal too, getting drawn into the book.
Yeah,
you're immortal,
And we're going to have a lot of other things, become available and stuff like that for the Kickstarter. So if you sign up for updates or whatever, you can, know the kind of other things that we're going to be releasing as opportunities. But yeah, it's, I hope it's the first of many, and the first edition, you should see how much my rookie card is worth.
One quick last question. So I'm a dad of two young girls. So seeing something like this where you've been so successful in other areas of your life and are now stepping outside of your comfort zone to do something that is obviously passion for you, what kind of advice do you have for my daughters, young women who may not have the support group that perhaps you had, or are feeling embarrassed or shy or introverted about taking that next step to do something that you're so passionate about?
I think you just have to follow where your passion is leading you. You can't go wrong with it. And the first person that has to believe in you is you. And there's so many things that I ended up doing that everyone else around me said it was a terrible idea, but I knew on the inside that I was the first person that was privy to this secret that the rest of the world was going to know. And that's pretty audacious to my mom being a world champion judoka, she was some person that thought, I am going to say that out of all the billions of people on earth, I am the best at this one thing. And it's pretty damn audacious. And so having that person walk through the living room, and I see her unable to find her keys. I'm like, you know what? If the people that accomplish these great things, they're not aliens, they're not robots. They're people that are passionate about this one thing and they couldn't let it go. And but yeah, it sounds cliche to be just stick with it. But if you're really passionate about something, you can't stop. You can't. It's not like you have to really dig deep. yeah, I had to dig deep and train really hard for a lot of hours and stuff like that. But it wasn't because I hated it. It was because I absolutely loved it and I couldn't stop. And I would do it until like literally my body parts were falling off. You know, I would train until I could taste blood in my lungs. And it wasn't because I hated it. It was because I loved it. And that's why after taking care of a baby all day, I put her down at 8 o'clock, you know, and finally have a moment to rest. But instead of taking that moment to rest, I'll stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning and work on this. And it's not because I'm digging deep and doing something that I can't stand. It's because I'm so obsessed with it that I can't not do it. And I think that following and encouraging your obsessions is you can't go wrong. And if you do, it'll lead you somewhere else and somewhere better.
Thanks, guys. We're out of time. We actually have to get things moving. Do we have one more question at least? Okay.
Yeah. So you have a great team with your current project. What was the process of building and assigning that team? How did you know this was the team for you?
Well, it was Jason who found Axel, and he found Mike.
Oh, so it's just one after another?
Yeah, I think if you just start with one person you trust and go with whoever they trust and go with whoever they trust, you kind of can find like this chain of people that are vouched for, you know, and like not only is Axel and Mike great at their job, but you know, he's a great person who says he is a great person. So that's the kind of people that I want to work with, and kind of how I
was
try.
determined to get the project. I was determined. I said, look, I read a few comic books in my day, you know?
I know the thing or two.
I kind of think this is good.
Yeah.
And he's done the same.
So your recommendations have a lot of validity.
Yes.
Apparently, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.